Good evening and thank you for joining us here in the newsroom for this new edition. Here we have the top stories. Thousands of people have participated in the Walk for Peace, which has been held each year in the Arta region. And in the continental level summit eyes future China-Africa cooperation, we will have more details in this edition. Welcome again. The 19th edition of 10 km of Arta hiking has been held this morning in the region of Arta. It is under the auspice of the Secretary of State for Youth and Sport. International recognized this march is entitled Africa Peace Walk. Early this morning, under a light rain, that hundreds of people have taken part in the fog of this march, annually organized since 2008. According to the Secretary of State for Youth and Sport, 7,500 people have participated to this walk. The President of the National Assembly, several members of the government and MPs have taken part. The kick-off starting has been given by the Secretary of State for Youth and Sport, Mr. Badoul Hassan Badoul, alongside with the President of the National Assembly, Mr. Mahmoud Ali Hamad, the Budget Minister, Mr. Bodi Ahmed Bodi, and the Prefect of the Arta, Abdullahi Darar Ukiye. This walk, entitled Africa Peace Walk, is organized in the framework of the promotion of peace, so the participation of young people, women, as well as of foreign nationals living in our country. In an interview, the Prefect of Arta, Mr. Abdullahi Darar Ukiye, was pleased with the good conduct of the hiking dedicated this year to the promotion of peace. He said that under the auspice of the Secretary of State for Youth and Sport, the sporting event is dedicated to the strengthening of a cultural peace here and everywhere else in the world. Each year, this sporting event attracts many fans in this walk. And for his part, the Secretary of State for Youth and Sport, Badoul Hassan Badoul, said that I'm very pleased to participate in the 9th edition of Africa Peace Walk. It's a walk history and that everyone knows in Djibouti this is the time to make the promotion of peace through sport, he said. Once more, the young, the less young women were able to participate, and it went well, as you may see in this massive influx of people who came from the capital and whole regions. We have made this year one journey to facilitate the work of the security and defense forces in order to allow them to properly not only ensure the good conduct of this work, but also mostly to ensure the safety of participants. And finally, he said that thanked the ministerial departments such as the defense, the interior and health, which help us in the organization and the smooth running in a very good condition of this Africa Peace Walk. I cannot conclude my remarks, he pointed out, without congratulating the Prefect of the region, Abdullah Dar Ukiye, for the smooth running and well organized of this work, and as well as the staff of the Secretary of State for Youth and Sport. The ceremony of distribution of sponsorship Sharia and each year has been held today in the School of Wise. 123 orphans of different categories have benefited from this distribution. This distribution is shared by the responsible for sponsorship and the one of Diwan and Zakat, Mr. Adan Hussein Adan, in the presence of the Deputy of the Sponsorship of Diwan Zakat, Mr. Khalid Muhammad, in the presence of the orphan, accompanied by their parents. The activities of sponsorship, the aids and donation of organization of charitable organization such as well as international passed by the Diwan and Zakat, who distribute to people in need. Remember that the Zakah is the charity pillar of Islam. It is therefore an unescapable obligation of every Muslim whose financial condition is above certain. This year the contribution is shared in 5 categories for 123 orphans. The most vulnerable through the amount is 70,280 francs Djibouti at 198,600. Sports news now. The mini tournament counting for the Arab Games School organized by the satellite television station Al Jazeera opened yesterday at the Goulet Stadium. The kick-off of these minimal games has been given by the General Secretary of the Education Ministry, Harun Umar Adan. Let's be reminded that this tournament is organized in the countries of Arab League, and our country will participate in this edition for the first time, and there are several teams of young student age of 11 years old and from 8 colleges in the capital and the regions who are living for 3 days at the stage for a qualification for these inter-school games. In total, 8 institutions take part in these tournaments, such as Dogle College, Gabot Fort, Charles de Foucault, Arta 1, Hayal Said, Humbuli Fukuzawa, and Pekadous. The first games have helped to publicize the first dismissed finalists of this game, in this case the College of Gabot Cat, Charles de Foucault, Hayal Said, and Fukuzawa. The semi-finals will be played today and tomorrow at the Guled Stadium. This mini tournament organized in the framework of the Arab Games Inter-School will continue until tomorrow to see who will be the champion and who will represent our country at the Arab level during the final phases, which will take place in the capital Qatar, Doha. The Educational Information Research Center of the National Education, known as CRIPEN, has hosted a training on the reform of the vocational technical education of a week provided by an international expert, in this case Mr. John Labouze, Inspector of Academic Mathematics and Science in Technical and Vocational Education. The training was opened Saturday under the chairmanship of the senior official of the MINFOB, who took part in the opening of this workshop, and they specify in their intervention the importance of the training that will help to carry out his term to reform of a professional bachelor. Training in itself had two stands of action. The first has concerned the civil engineering and electrical and mechanical engineering and its variant of output profile in the professionalizing phase in the different cap of a professional baccalaureate, while the second part was intended to all the teacher of mathematics and physics in the vocational course, as well as the pedagogic counselor referring in this discipline of mathematics and physical. This training aims to increase the level of informational and awareness on the various technical and practical issue of the new reform of technical and vocational education, as well as the trade pool. It is to create and mobilize all the skills of the discipline related to the technical and vocational training of the MINFOB. For participants, this training was to particular interest. The one of the other have appreciated the quality of the intervention of the sport trainer of the and the various exchange during the duration of the workshop. Moving on to another news, an official ceremony of distribution of kits and agricultural materials was held yesterday morning at the headquarters of the Agricultural Cooperative of Mouloud in the region. The ceremony of distribution is organized in the framework of the implementation of the second phase activities of the project on strengthening the managerial capacity and cooperative agro-pastoralist, funded by the European Union and implemented by the NGO PLA in partnership with the ACF and the Ministry of Agriculture. The equipment and agricultural materials are intended to be used to increase vegetable production cooperative beneficiaries in order to achieve the expected result of the project. It's a question of kits, drip, irrigation and water tanks distributed to 28 recipients of the cooperative from Mouloud. The latter will follow training on land use, planning and in irrigation techniques to dripping and fertilization of wheat with a team of national trainers specialists in this area. The deputy whip of the region of Dekhel, Mr. Fouad, the deputy prefect of Mouloud, the president of the association PLA, Mr. Hassan Khaire, attended to these ceremony distributions. And to end up the national news, an intermittent rainfall have spread to the capital, underlining that the rainy season has arrived in the capital and on the whole of the region in altitude after a dry summer, particularly combined with a recurring through in recent years. The arrival of the rainy season is being well received by the Djiboutian population, especially in the rural areas. In the capital, these light rainfall have led some puddle of water in the country. The rainy season being here, this has a consequence of the living water which stored on the public road create health implication and leave a liver of mosquitoes will multiply in this puddle of dirty water. The continental and international news now. Chinese President Xi Jinping will visit Zimbabwe and South Africa from December the 1st to 5th, during which time he will attend the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation in the South African capital, Johannesburg. Let's see it.
Chinese President Xi Jinping will visit Zimbabwe and South Africa from December the 1st to 5th, during which times he will attend the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation in Johannesburg. China's foreign minister says the president will introduce China's new ideas and plans for China-Africa cooperation. More agreements are expected during the summit. Foreign Minister Wang Yi says President Xi will co-chair the Johannesburg summit on December the 4th and 5th with South African President Zuma. This year marked the 15th anniversary of the forum, and it's the first time the ministerial meeting has been upgraded to a leaders' summit, a reflection of the sides' developing relations. President Xi will introduce China's new ideas for cooperation with Africa. China will also propose a series of cooperation plans, including industrial production shifts, infrastructure construction, human resource exploration, facilitating investment, green development, financing, servicing, and peace and security. Cooperation between China and Africa is built upon equality and mutual development, Wang said. Wang Yi says the summit will focus on improving people's livelihood, reducing poverty, and caring more for women and children in developing countries. He said China has invested over $13 billion in Africa, while over 3,000 Chinese companies are operating there. China also led over 5,000 kilometers of rail in Africa by this September.
Let's move on. Europe. France is holding a national memorial service for the 130 people who died in the Paris attack 2 years ago. Around 1,000 people are attending the service in central Paris, including the prisoner François Hollande, survivor of the attack, and victims' family. More detail in this report.
Around 1,000 people attended the service in central Paris, including President François Hollande, survivors of the attacks, and victims' families. A minute silence was held and the names of all the victims read out. Attackers with assault rifles and suicide belts targeted a number of sites in the capital. Islamic State later said it was behind the assault. In his speech, President François Hollande said France will do all it can to destroy this army of fanatics. It will operate relentlessly to protect its children, he said. He vowed that France would respond with more music, concerts, and sporting events after some of the attacks targeted a concert venue and a stadium. Among those attending the service were the parents of British victims, Nick Alexander, who said that they were now intrinsically linked to those who had also lost loved ones. The outpouring of love from around the world has been a great comfort to us and make us even more proud to have had Nick as our son, they added.
Still in Europe, Italian police says almost 800 shotguns bound in Belgium from Turkey from a truck that arrived in the northeastern post of Trieste. A statement said on Thursday. The finance police, who are often in charge of port security, say that while custom rules had not been violated, the Turkish truck driver did not have the license needed to transport the 781 Winchester shotguns. Let's listen for more information.
Italian border police have confiscated almost 800 shotguns from a Dutch truck, which was traveling from Turkey to Belgium. The vehicle was stopped and searched in the northern port of Trieste. A check of the goods transported revealed that boxes contained 781 Winchester model rifles. Police said that given the particular nature of the items, all the goods were confiscated. A further investigation revealed regular customs documentation, but a lack of authorization required from the transport of large caliber weapons.
That's it for tonight news. Thank you for being with us.